One of the top issues dominating this election year is border security. My colleague Daniel Marin recently held a pair of in-depth conversations with the U.S. Senate candidates in Texas, Republican Senator Ted Cruz and Democratic Congressman Allred. It culminated in a one-hour Senate race special ranging in topics from the economy to reproductive rights. Today, we want to showcase part of the conversation centered around border security. We start with Senator Cruz, followed by Representative Allred.
Things like building the border wall, reinstating that, also reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy you've said. So how would you balance all of those with the needs and contributions of the immigrant community in Texas?
There's a right way to come to this country. You follow the law, you follow the rules, you wait in line, you come legally. And I will say what's happening at our southern border, it is a crisis unlike any we've seen in the history of our country. I spend a lot of time down there. It has never been remotely this bad. We've had over 11 million illegal immigrants cross into this border illegally. And you ask, how do you fix it? You know what's frustrating? This crisis is man-made, and it is Joe Biden and Colin Allred and the Democrats that created this crisis. Why is that? Because when Biden came into office, he inherited a border that was largely secure. He inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. I had worked hand in hand with President Trump, and we had largely secured the border. We'd achieved incredible victories securing the border. All Biden had to do was nothing. Just don't screw it up. But instead, what did he do? He came in and he deliberately broke the border. It was 3 decisions he made, and they were all unilateral executive decisions. Number 1, you rightly noted, he halted building the border wall. Did that on the first day in office. Number 2, he reinstated the disastrous policy of catch and release. So now that we apprehend people here illegally, they let them go. And number 3, he pulled out of the unbelievably successful Remain in Mexico agreement. Remain in Mexico is how we'd gotten the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. The result of that, the numbers exploded. And they didn't do so gradually over 6 months, they happened overnight. We went from the lowest rate in 45 years to the highest rate in the history of our country. All of that is deliberate. The good news, though, because it was done by unilateral executive action, it can be undone by unilateral executive action.
In a recent poll, Texas voters identified border security as the most important issue facing the state right now, followed closely by immigration, hand in hand. You have a new ad touting that you stood up to President Biden when it comes to the border. Back in January, you were one of 3 Texas Democrats who supported a resolution to condemn President Biden's handling of the southern border. I guess just kind of walk us through your evolution of thought on this. You now support the president's executive orders that came out recently. What do you say for folks who see the ad as maybe some kind of flip-flop on the issue?
What we have seen is that we've had a change to where in the last month of December of 23, we had a record number of crossings, 300,000 in a month. I think that's around the same as we had in the last year of the Obama presidency. The facts on the ground have changed. We do have a crisis at the border. Venezuela is in collapse. We've seen millions of Venezuelans fleeing Venezuela. We've seen what's happening in Haiti in terms of the gang violence that's forcing so many Haitians out of Haiti. We know what's still happening in the Northern Triangle countries, and this is also a global phenomenon that countries all over the world are facing. And so it requires a response. We have to respond with smart policy. And this is where I get really frustrated because I see Ted Cruz with a bipartisan effort in the United States Senate to bring billions of dollars to this issue for more immigration judges, for more Border Patrol agents, for more administrative personnel, to help secure the border as well, and also changing the standard on the asylum process, which is already, I think, causing and exacerbating the problem that we're having. And he says no to that, and I support it, but he's saying no. And he's saying no, and he's also at the same time admitting that he's worried that if he does that, it's going to impact the elections in November. And what he's saying when he's saying that is, I don't want to fix the problem because I want to run on the problem. And that to me has to be so outrageous to every single Texan.
The full one-hour edition of Campaign Context is online in its entirety. Look for it on our website in this week's State of Texas story.
Think tanks do think tank stuff. They come up with ideas, they say things.
Project 2025. You may have heard the phrase as election season continues. What is it, and why are some sounding the alarm?
Abraham Lincoln said, "You represent yourself, you have a fool for a client."
But representation comes at a cost. the Texas Supreme Court justice trying to close the justice gap, and his plan to bring legal aid to those struggling in this economy.